Good morning. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller, broadcasting from the 13 News Now studios in Southeast Virginia, serving not only Hampton Roads and Virginia Beach, Norfolk, these areas. There's 7 cities that make up Hampton Roads, but also Northeast North Carolina, all the way up through Virginia's Eastern Shore, Middle Peninsula. We've got you all covered. And with the Weather Desk, we not only focus on our local weather, we also look at some international stories, weather across the U.S. as well. Lots of different things. It all comes down to covering today's top weather headlines. So what are we looking at today? A little more focus on some more wintry weather. We've been tracking storm systems across the U.S., and we do have a winter storm warning for part of our local viewing area here. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the winter weather alerts for Virginia and North Carolina, in addition to these other topics. Let's take a look. We have some important winter driving safety tips. We'll pass those along. We're also going to talk about some folks that really benefit and enjoy all of the fresh snowfall. There are, of course, some industries that rely on that fresh snow. It makes things a lot better. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to talk about kind of an interesting story. Have you ever noticed how it always seems to be so quiet during snowfalls? We're going to explain why. Hunter Forst will be back with a special story on that. I think you'll find that interesting. We've got some natural wonders. We're talking about Kilauea. Absolutely gorgeous eruption, but it was a big one. We'll explain that. Also, there was an earthquake in Alaska. We'll give you the latest details on that. And then we're going to turn our attention to Australia just to keep you updated on what's happening over there with the brush fires. It has been a horrible brush fire season, and they've got the warm weather. Of course, our winter in the northern hemisphere is their warm season south of the equator, and they are definitely feeling it in parts of Australia. So we'll talk about that. And then, of course, look ahead here in Hampton Roads as well with the extended outlooks. Let's take a look at what's going on today. We do have a weather impact alert, and it really begins in about an hour, 10 a.m. Eastern time through about 8 o'clock this evening. We're looking at snow for inland areas. So inland snow, we're going to see a mix and rain near the coast, maybe a little more transition over to mix and snow, even at the coast. And we'll explain that. You definitely need to take those precautions. If you have to travel later today, there could be some really tough spots to navigate here in the mid-Atlantic, and we'll break down who's likely to see the most snow and what kind of amounts you can expect and why this is a little bit of a tricky forecast, but we'll show you where our numbers are for how much snow to expect later today and through the afternoon. I wanted to start off taking a quick look at our temperatures because what initially starts, and it is going to be mainly rain for the Outer Banks, look at upper 40s to near 50. It feels, well, I won't say spring-like, but obviously well above freezing there at the Outer Banks, and down around the Albemarle Sound, mainly rain for those areas with some mixing potentially. Right now, we're in the mid-40s in Virginia Beach, right at the coast. These temperatures are going to fall later today, and we've got low 40s for Norfolk and Portsmouth back into Chesapeake. Again, temperatures are going to find their way into the 30s, and we are expecting snow in this area later today and early into the evening. As we look back out to the west, we're in the 30s there. And you also see temperatures in the mid to upper 30s around Chickahominy and Williamsburg, back over to Lee Hall, low 40s for the peninsula. So it's not terribly cold yet. Excuse me, but we just had a front come through. Temperatures are going to fall off later today, and the winds are going to pick up from the north, dropping these temperatures as we go. That's why we weren't worried about snow this morning. We knew it was warm, but it is those falling temperatures, the gusty winds, that are going to lead to some more issues. So while we're in the low 40s around Norfolk this morning, temperatures will fall into the lower to mid 30s, and that's when we're going to see that snow mixing with the rain, maybe some snow for the evening commute, and then it'll taper off either as a snow or rain snow mix maybe, and then we're going to get cold overnight. So we'll talk about all of that coming up. Want to start off with a look at the national picture here, and here's our storm system coming into play. We had one exit the northeast. There's another one coming into the northwest. A lot going on, and this morning, millions of Americans from coast to coast dealing with various extreme weather. From heavy rain in the northwest to more ice and snow in the northeast and back in the central part of the country as well. ABC's Hannah Britta has the latest.
This morning, extreme weather impacting millions from coast to coast. Heavy snow making for treacherous travel on the roads in Iowa, up to 8 inches falling in some areas. And in Chicago, residents are digging out after another round of snow, the city getting more than 17 inches in just the last few weeks, the most by this point in the season since 1978. Farther east, snow blanketed upstate New York, but that didn't stop Buffalo Bills fans from tailgating. The game against the Cincinnati Bengals turning into a winter wonderland.
He throws. He's got a touchdown.
The Bills celebrating in the end zone with snow angels. Temperatures during the game were in the low 30s, but are already dropping. Today, it'll feel like 6 degrees in Buffalo, 9 in Chicago, and as low as 0 in Minneapolis. In the south, multiple rounds of rain are bringing relief from Louisiana to Florida, easing drought conditions throughout the region. Across the country, people in the Pacific Northwest are being told to prepare as an atmospheric river is set to bring intense flooding with up to a foot of rain possible in some areas.
Flood watches hold through Friday from Eugene to Seattle and in the mountains of northern Idaho with a fire hose of moisture dropping rounds of heavy rain and snow. By Friday, we could see up to a foot of rain in the Cascades. The elevation and saturation after that many days mean that flooding is a real risk all week long.
Hannah Battah, ABC News, New York.
All right, Hannah, thank you for the update. Let's take a look right now at the winter weather advisories and then the winter storm warning. You'll notice the advisory is for the Southside Hampton roads for Hampton and up in Poquoson, Eastern Shore, Northern Neck, Middle Peninsula, and Northeast North Carolina, north of the Albemarle Sound. These areas shaded in pink are under winter storm warning. That includes Newport News and York. You see Isle of Wight, Southampton County and Franklin, Surrey and Sussex. But I want to focus on this area here, James City County and Williamsburg, because Jeremiah Beatty is out. She's been looking at the conditions out there, and you are up in Williamsburg right now, Jeremiah. Why don't you tell us what you're seeing and how VDOT's preparing?
Hey, good morning, Craig. Yes, as I stand here now, we're starting to see that rain pick up. Before it was very light, but we're starting to see that come down. It feels a little colder too, so this is a really good day for everyone to be bundled up. But right now, I'm reporting from VDOT's Williamsburg residency, and behind me there is a number of plow trucks aligned side by side with that salt and brine mix in the back of them. They're ready on standby really to respond to any areas that need attention. We've been talking all morning long, you know, your bridges, overpasses, and those trouble prone areas are those areas that crews that you'll see here will be heading out to touch. Now, as far as this rain and snow in the forecast today, the biggest advice I'm hearing from local and state officials is just to stay alert. Keep an eye on those wet spots, potential for ice, and just making sure you give yourself enough time to slow down and respond if there's an abrupt stop in front of you. But crews have been pre-treating roads and really getting out there to prepare ahead of today's winter weather. And I will say, troopers say they are expecting more calls to come in, you know, with this weather when it comes to the snow and ice. And I think for anyone who's been on wet roads or ice or who've navigated those types of conditions during a storm, you know how easily it can be to stall out. So they just are sending in reminders that it just takes a little bit of ice to cause your car to stall out. But again, Craig, as I stand here, you can see now those droplets that we saw at the start of my hit has slowed down. It's honestly just sprinkling now, or you'll see little droplets here and there, but it's definitely very cold. And we've been tracking conditions outside for everyone all morning long. But I think any of those watching today, your best bet is just to slow down, use caution today, and be patient as you head to your destination.
Jeremiah, I don't know if you've had a chance to talk to anybody with VDOT or not, so you may not know the answer to this, but you had mentioned they were pre-treating on Friday because it started as snow. The pre-treatment was very effective. Have you heard anybody express any concern that maybe with a little bit of a wet start or a mix that those roads pre-treated may need some extra attention? Have you heard or talked to anybody?
No, at this point, Craig, no, I have not. But I do, in the next 30 minutes, plan to speak with an official about plans ahead of today and how they've shifted now that we know snow and ice is in our mix again. But again, like you see crews here, these trucks are lined side by side. There's people inside them. They're waiting. I've been seeing those plow trucks coming and going in and out of this lot here. So they're definitely on the move today. But that will definitely be one question that I ask officials this morning for sure.
All right, Jeremiah, thank you so much for being out there with us on the weather desk. We'll look forward to hearing your reports later in the day. And I know those folks up in Williamsburg, those crews are ready to go. Thank you so much. All right, let's go ahead and take a look right now at, again, the big picture here. We've got our storm system coming in. I mentioned there was that system back in the northwest. They're worried about more rain with the atmospheric river pouring more moisture into that part of the country. But we're going to really focus here on Hampton Roads. And you can see there's low pressure here with the winds wrapping around. And as we take a look, again, looks like there's been rain over the area, but this has all been virga. It's been falling aloft and really not making it down to the ground, even up around Williamsburg where Jeremiah was. She's like, yeah, it's very, very light right now. Not a lot to it. Now, as we take a look at the live sweep here, you can see while it looks like there was rain falling aloft, it wasn't making it down. We are starting to get some light amounts here. The closer you are to the radar site, the lower the beam is. So where you see the returns around the radar site, okay, there's some light precipitation out there, maybe a little bit of mix aloft. And as we take a look, this is taking a look at the Morehead City radar. It looks like there's stuff here. Well, that's all because the radar beam is shooting way up high in the atmosphere, picking up that virga. Here's a look from up in Delaware. We've got the Dover site turned on here, and you can see again, same deal. Near the surface, nothing, but you get up high into the atmosphere, you do pick up some of that virga. I'll give you the look from Sterling there up around DC. Again, the same general thing. So the bottom line is, as we take a look at our own radar, this is showing here locally some of the lower stuff that is starting to reach the ground. Light precipitation, that will continue to build as the morning goes on. And then we're going to see the transition to snow as colder air gets pulled down into this system, and we're going to be watching all of that. Now you see the future cast here, and you'll see just light activity early this morning, but as we continue through the late morning and into the early afternoon, it's more and more likely that we get more of that sustained snow, light to moderate. At times we could get some heavier mixing as well. Mainly rain at the coast. Again, 40 Virginia Beach, 47 Kill Devil Hills. But Norfolk, Chesapeake, Portsmouth starting to fall into the 30s and eventually those lower to mid 30s. This is where the snow that falls will also pull down some colder air. And eventually, by late afternoon and into the evening, while they're still dealing with rain down around Kill Devil Hills, I think we're going to see snow mix or snow across parts of Virginia Beach, maybe even down around Elizabeth City, and then snow as you come farther west and into the western parts of the area. That snow will have been going for a while and still continuing even across central portions of Virginia. Now, going into the evening, by 9:30 or so, a lot of this stuff starts to wind down, and by 10 o'clock, we're in better shape. The concern next will be clearing and much colder conditions with temperatures down to the 20s for many inland locations, low 30s near the coast. Now, even though there won't be additional snowfall tomorrow morning, we've got to be concerned with black ice. So areas that do get snowy or slush covered, maybe some of those roads that are treated, wet conditions overnight, going into the overnight, but by tomorrow morning with these cold temperatures, there is the concern for freezing. Now let's take this full, and I'm going to bring in my colleague, Taylor Stephenson, who has been taking a close look at, again, the mixing ratios. And as Taylor comes on over, I want to welcome her in, and we'll take a look at those conditions and why all of this could change. So, Taylor, I'm going to let you take the big board here, and we'll talk some more about this.
Well, good morning, everybody. Let's talk about what we're seeing here across our area when it comes to these mixing ratios. So, snow ratios. So, we're talking about snow ratios, and that's basically the equivalent of how much water we have in the atmosphere compared to the air temperature. Those two things in combination determine how much snowfall we do get on a snow event. So let's just take, for example, making this math very, very simple, 1 inch of rain, 1 inch of water in the atmosphere, so precipitable water. So we have this, say we have 34 degrees here at our surface. What does that do? Well, we're going to be talking about the potential of maybe, 5 to 1 snow ratios. Craig, if you could go ahead and click through that graphic for me, that'd be great. Thank you. So we can see anywhere from 5 to 1 in the ratio, meaning for every 1 inch of water we have in the atmosphere, that means that we could maybe see up to 5 inches of snowfall. This is when you have a really wet snow, that packable snow, the same snow that Craig had me throw a snowball at our photographer just last week on Friday, that packable snow. Now, typically, when you have snowfall ratios 10 to 1, temperatures are just a couple degrees below freezing or right at freezing. 10 to 1 means that for every 1 inch of water in the atmosphere we have, or of precipitable water, that means that we could see up to 10 inches of snowfall. That's typical. Now, dry snow is something that we see on very, very cold days. For those who live in Hampton Roads in northeastern North Carolina, you may remember the February snow we had, where we had 10 inches, 12 inches, isolated 13 inches of snow. We had temperatures in the 20s. You get down into the teens, you can see snow ratios as high as 20 to 1. For every 1 inch of water, you can see up to 20 inches of snow. But that's a very dry snow, like snow you can blow, basically. So today in Hampton Roads, and Craig, you can come in as well, in Hampton Roads, northeastern North Carolina, the Weather Service says we may only have about 0.2 of an inch of precipitable water.
So we take a look here. These are the various models and their outputs if it were to all fall as rain. It's another way to look at it. You could see the NAM was going about 1/3 of an inch or so, almost 4/10 from the GFS, the graph with just under 1/4 inch, and similar with the Canadian, the Euro a little bit beefier. As we take a look again at the air temperatures, and keep in mind, some of what falls will melt on contact. That's always important to note when you see some of these projections. There's going to be a little bit of compacting, and there's going to be a little bit of melt. But based on those ratios, as we were looking, if we get a 5 or 5 to 10, say, to 1 ratio, these are what the different models are projecting as far as the snowfall totals. So you can see, again, these various amounts. The Euro, 1.6, that's a little bit warmer scenario with that, not as much. The GFS going 2.1 inches for Norfolk, and the NAM also around 1.9, just under 2 inches. So again, these numbers, depending on how warm it is, whether it's 30 degrees or 34, it's probably going to be a little bit warmer, at the beginning, which is why our actual forecast is trending a little bit lower for Norfolk. But inland areas, I mean, Taylor, we were talking, look at what the NAM does. Richmond, 5.4 inches. It's a possibility.
It is.
Depending on how things work out with the temp.
And one depends, first of all, where you sit geographically, So this morning, we're in the 40s, so it's going to take a while for us to cool down even so. But 2, snow also sometimes in the atmosphere can help to cool the air.
Yeah, absolutely. It brings kind of some of that colder air down with it. And as you get the different phases and changes and things, there's a lot that goes on. But it can actually, the snow can cool the column of air as it falls. Now we take a look here, generally up to 1/2 inch. We just took a look at all those specific ones. This is the graph. I wanted to show what the graph snow model is projecting. And again, close to 1 inch or so around Norfolk, lesser amounts in Virginia Beach. You mentioned those warmer areas right along the coast. Obviously, a little bit harder to get the snow to stick around there. And down at Kill Level Hills, we're not looking for anything. I mean, maybe a few wet snowflakes in the mix, but basically rain.
I mean, we're right on that transition line, too. It really depends on where that line sets up of snow versus no snow. And it's probably going to be streaming right through Virginia Beach down into northeastern North Carolina. So still a lot to really keep up with over the next couple of hours.
It is interesting to note that with the graph model, and this is not our forecast, this is the model's output. I'll mention that. It's a little bit lighter up at Richmond. It has that heavier stuff south of Richmond. And I do think that there's going to be an area somewhere out in here that we see more like 3 to 5 inches. Now we take a look at this graphic, and I think you first put this forecast together yesterday morning.
I did.
Modified it very little. It was a great forecast.
Thank you.
You can see the rain down around the Albemarle Sound. There's that little slushy mix area, and that's the hard part, trying to really pin that down.
Exactly, and that's the thing that I was really taking my time yesterday, like trying to make those lines, because there is going to be a very thin line between, again, have and have-nots.
Yeah.
And it's going to be snow where we could see maybe half an inch to an inch and a half for places, getting more closer to the eastern side of the south side, places inland closer to that 2, maybe an isolated 3. But we know for sure Outer Banks, you're really just going to get a cold rain today, and we know for sure inland you're at least going to get at least an inch of snow. It's really this area that remains a little bit uncertain.
And I will mention is, it may be hard for you to see the detail in this because, we've got Norfolk right there as a label, but even northern parts of Virginia Beach, say towards the Lesnar, if we get enough cold air coming in, we might see some minor accumulation northern parts of Virginia Beach. We could see Norfolk, as Taylor mentioned, maybe an inch or so, a slushy inch and a half, certainly a possibility. Then as you come up on the peninsula, more like 1 to 3 inches, maybe say 1 to 2 this area, and then you get up towards Williamsburg, maybe closer to 3. That's kind of how it looks right now. And I really want to stress, and I'm sure you agree with this because we talk about this stuff off camera, this is one of those things that we may see it evolving one way or another.
Right.
And it's one of those things, I don't really want to say it's a moving target, but to an extent.
More nowcasting.
Yeah, it's going to be a matter of saying, okay, we're getting some heavier areas here or there. That's why it's so important to join Taylor today at noon, if you can, to watch 13 News Now at noon. And then Tim and Evan will be in this afternoon and evening to carry you through the extent of it. Again, that heaviest snow likely out here. And again, these are the areas under the winter storm warning. So no great surprises there. Now, as we take a look at today's weather, Taylor, again, we're in the low 40s right now. We have been pretty much all morning. We're going to be around 41 or so for the next few hours, and then temperatures fall off by noon, 38. Rain showers are going to become more likely. Thus far, I've stepped outside like a few times just to see.
Yeah.
Hardly anything.
Yeah.
A little misty. But as we get into the afternoon, you'll notice rain, snow mixing in as we get into the mid-30s. You're thinking, well, it's got to be 32, right, to snow. Well, no.
Not really.
That colder air comes down, and we get the snow aloft where it's sub-freezing, where it all forms, and then it pulls down. So we're looking at this, again, into 4 or 5 o'clock, and this is where we have that potential for some accumulation. And then as we talked about the refreeze tomorrow morning.
Right. And also just even the breeziness in general. I mean, wind gusts today could be as high as 30 miles an hour. So you're talking about a mix of rain and snow, breezy conditions, travel hazards maybe, especially during this afternoon commute is our thing. And then you said, yes, tomorrow morning, we could see anything that either melts on the ground or, any wet, especially that cold rain we have near the coast, that could refreeze as temperatures tomorrow drop back to the 20s and 30s overnight.
We're going to get into all of this. So again, Taylor, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time with us here on the Weather Desk. We've got a lot more to get into, and we're going to talk about everything that's going on in preparation. So we'll get into all of that. How about this?
So
up
pretty.
at Snowshoe, you can see the mountain there. Those skiers are loving it. So, if you're waiting for some snow to ski, you got to go to the mountains for that. But around here, we're going to be seeing a little bit as well. So, Taylor, thank you.
Yes.
Let's go ahead. I want to talk about VDOT and Virginia State Police. They're reminding drivers to stay alert ahead of the latest round of wintry weather. Virginia State Police say more troopers will be out there on the highways today so they can respond to calls as quickly as possible. They're urging drivers to be patient and to make sure they're taking normal safety precautions in this weather.
We're asking people to use their headlights. Remember that when you're out and there's ice on the roadway, your stopping distance is going to be a little bit more. So it's going to take you a little bit longer to stop. So remember that when there's ice on the roadway. Remember to clear all the snow and ice off the top of your vehicle so that it doesn't blow back off the top of your vehicle onto somebody else, because that can be incredibly dangerous. Slow down.
Cities like Hampton and Virginia Beach also say they have crews on standby and that they have already pre-treated many of the roads, the overpasses, and the bridges. Those are typically the earliest parts to freeze up. Now, AAA also has these important driving tips for staying safe on the roads when they get snowy or icy. First of all, make sure you've got a winter driving kit in your car. It should include a blanket, ice scraper, flares, a flashlight, jumper cables, and more. Experts also recommend dressing warmly. You got to do that just in case you get stranded and are stuck waiting for help in a cold car. Even if your car is running perfectly and you've got great tires, you're like, hey, I can do this. Remember, we have had situations where I-95, there were big pileups and it just became a parking lot for hours upon hours. So even if you're really good in the snow or you've got a great vehicle for snow, just moving through some of these traffic arteries, you could get into big trouble. Just be prepared. Make sure you've got some warm clothes with you. Remember, never warm up your car in an enclosed area like a garage. You should always keep your gas tank at least half full to avoid a gas line freeze up. And of course, always wear your safety belt. I know that's basic, but we want to make sure people do that. All right, again, it's not just local cities and state agencies preparing for the wintry weather. It's a busy time of year for the snow removal businesses, especially in some of those northern states where they're getting pounded. TJ Dysart caught up with one plow driver in Milwaukee.
Make no mistake, Corey Hansen knows being in the snow removal business is no easy feat.
A lot of the money comes when the snow's flying, so if I can't get out there and work, the money's just not coming in during winter.
For the owner of Snow Problem 414 and other plow drivers across the state, it's consistent winter weather that helps pay the bills.
So in a way, you're pretty much on call all the time in the winter.
All the time, all the time. The benefit of this business is when it does snow, there's money coming in. When the snow doesn't come, I have to still be available, but I'm not getting the benefit.
But this year, Hansen says he may have hit the jackpot because of how much snow is already on the ground well before the official start of winter.
I definitely don't remember being this busy in November, December.
Weather Watch 12 data showing 2025 as the clear outlier for November snow totals in recent Milwaukee winters, in some cases tripling previous totals. And now, with even more snow heading towards southeastern Wisconsin through Sunday morning, Hansen is gearing up once again.
So what does the next 24 hours look like for you from this point?
Right now, the snow's supposed to be done at 6 a.m., so I'll probably wake up about 5, warm the truck up and get on the road and work till we're done.
Reporting in Milwaukee, TJ Dysart, WISN 12 News.
All right, so a story from up north. And, you know, while we're talking about the northern part of the country that's seen so much snow, in Minnesota, the snow, it's been tough on commuters in the Twin Cities, but cross-country skiers are loving it. Check it out. Many have been taking advantage of the winter weather, hitting the trails after getting this fresh powder over the weekend. And this is a look at the conditions at Theo Worth Regional Park in Golden Valley, about 15 minutes north of Minneapolis. Both skiers and park officials say the natural snow is just a really nice change of pace from the machine-made snow.
I'm going to try to do 10K and then wrap it up because it's my first ski of the year and I don't want to be too sore tomorrow.
It is so helpful for us. You know, we always have winter at Worth regardless of natural snow, but this year we not only have, we'll eventually have 7 kilometers of machine-made snow, but we also have up to 30 kilometers of natural snow that will fill in here over the next couple of weeks.
And you know the skiers are hoping they're going to see a lot more of that natural snow as the season goes on. I can tell you, as a skier myself, you can't get enough of that fresh snowfall. It's awesome. As I mentioned, the folks up here at Snowshoe getting fresh natural snow. Of course, they've had the snow guns on for a while, building up the base, but they are loving it, having the snow guns idle right now and just taking what Mother Nature brings them. All right, we're going to take a very short break, 2 minutes, and when we come back, why it's so quiet when it snows. We'll show you why after this. Welcome back. All right, we were talking about how it's so quiet. You may have noticed this for yourself. When a snow falls, everything just seems more peaceful, doesn't it? As it turns out, there may be a scientific reason why. Hunter Forst explains.
Have you ever stepped outside during a snowfall and noticed how quiet it feels? Almost like the world hit the mute button, but there's real science behind that peaceful silence. Fresh snow acts like a giant sound-absorbing blanket. Snowflakes are full of tiny pockets, and when they pile up on the ground, rooftops, and trees, those pockets trap and absorb sound waves. Instead of noise bouncing around like it normally does, it gets soaked up by the snow. So traffic, voices, even wind all sound more distant and muffled. Snow also changes how sound travels through the air. Snowy days usually come with colder and denser air, which can prevent sound from traveling as far, keeping noises closer to their source. And here's one more subtle factor. Human activity slows down. Fewer cars on the road, people stay indoors, and outdoor noise naturally drops off. So part of that quiet isn't just physics, it's us pressing pause. For 13 News Now, I'm meteorologist Hunter Forst.
That's great stuff, Hunter. And yeah, really interesting. I think two of my favorite winter sounds, the sound of the shovel scraping the snow off, when you're shoveling that driveway, that heavy, deep scraping sound of the snow. Love that. Just as a kid, it meant snow days and fun and a great time. But the number one thing as a young man growing up near Detroit, I spent 2nd through 5th grade living just north of Detroit. When I would hear the snowmobiles fire up, I knew, hey, there's enough snow out there that we're going to get some extra playtime, and there's going to be school out or whatever. Well, as soon as you'd hear those snowmobiles fire up, we're like, okay, it's a legitimate snowfall up in Michigan. And that was always a great time as a kid. And it's so quiet out there, you can hear those types of sounds firing up even in the distance. It's super cool. All right, right now we're going to take a look at a few of those kind of natural things we were talking about. Our first stop will be up here in Alaska, where a 7 magnitude earthquake shook parts of Alaska over the weekend. You can see the activity here within the last 12 hours. Nothing really, really big. But over the weekend, a different story. Check it out. You can see the earthquake there. It hit about 60 miles north of Juneau. Could still be felt by residents. That video was recorded inside a home in Juneau as the earthquake hit. If you look closely, you can see those lights and hanging plants were swinging. Fortunately, no substantial damage or injuries were reported. So that is some good news there. From Alaska, let's turn our attention back down to our 50th state. And specifically, we'll head over back to Mount Kilauea and the world's most active volcano. It is acting up once again. Check it out. This is a look at Mount Kilauea erupting in Hawaii on Saturday. Those lava fountains reaching up to 1,000 feet high. That is just tremendous. I think about the St. Louis Arch, okay, the world's famous St. Louis Arch, 635 feet. So you take the arch and then about half of the arch and add it to the top of the arch. That's how high those lava fountains were spewing. That is amazing. Now, it did destroy one U.S. Geological Survey camera that was capturing the entire thing. Kilauea has been erupting off and on for the last year, and this marks the 38th time the volcano has erupted since December of 2024. Really wild stuff to see. All right, now we're going to turn our attention all the way back over to Australia, and the eastern part of Australia has really been seeing, there have been wildfires all around, but it's been really bad, the brush fire season, and we've got some really sad news to share with you. These brush fires have forced thousands of people to flee their homes. Those fires have already scorched more than 25,000 acres and damaged at least a dozen homes in New South Wales. That's just north of Sydney. Crews are now working to get an estimated 70 brush fires under control, and we now know that a firefighter has died after getting hit by a falling tree. This is the worst fire season for Australia in years. It's been really pretty quiet since the so-called Black Summer fires back in 2019 and 2020, which destroyed an area the size of Turkey and killed 33 people. All right, so we'll keep Australia in our thoughts here as they deal with it. This is their hot season, obviously, while we're in the cold here in the northern hemisphere. We're going to take a look at high temperatures over the past week, and it really has been cold. We've had this run of days since Wednesday the 3rd. We've been below average, so it's been pretty chilly through the weekend after that one relatively warm day last Tuesday. As we go forward, we're in for more chilly weather over the next 10 days. You can see temperatures will get a little warmer, back into the low 50s, but still staying below average. And then another push of really cold air late in the weekend and into early next week. So temperatures up a little bit into Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but then colder again by the following early part of the week. As we take a look again, you can see wetter than normal conditions for the northwest U.S., drier in the southwest. We should be drier when you look at the dates between the 16th and the 22nd, but it's still expected to be a little bit below normal here in Hampton Roads, and it's more likely to be below normal for the Northeast and the Great Lakes. Above normal for the Southwest, so warm down that way, but for our area, it's likely to be dry and cool when you look forward to the 16th through the 22nd of December. So that's a look ahead. Right now we have, and I'm not sure why those, we've got the radar turned on. I was like, wait, where's my satellite images? All right, so what we have here, again, you can see the satellite images showing the increase in the clouds and now the precip. Remember, a lot of this is falling aloft and not quite making it down, although we are getting some more showers. Wanted to mention the wave action at the ocean front as we look in with the Thompson Creek Window Company Skyview. The waves are building and the winds are increasing. We actually have a gale warning up for the ocean waters just east of Virginia Beach. Right now at the airport, the winds are north-northeast at 21 miles per hour, and we're still at 42 degrees. But remember, those temperatures are going to tumble, be near 41 within the next hour, and then into the upper 30s as we get towards noon, mid-30s after that. Gale warning for our coastal waters on the bay. We have a small craft advisory. Again, windy and the waves building. You do not want to be out on the water. Obviously, you need to stay in port. So again, today, mostly snow coming, some rain in the mix. It's certainly at the beginning, but then a quick transition. And we are looking for this from late this morning through the evening. And again, 1 to 4 inches of snow possible, as we mentioned, for Norfolk and Portsmouth, parts of Chesapeake. Probably an inch, maybe an inch and a half in some areas. Slightly lower amounts towards the ocean front. In North Carolina, mainly rain. But parts of the peninsula, more like, I don't know, 1 to 3, 2 to 3 inches there, up towards Williamsburg, 3 to maybe 4. Some of the areas out towards I-95. And some areas around Richmond and to the south and southwest could see 5 inches of snow. So some heavier snow back across the central part of the Commonwealth. All right, temperatures have been in the lower to mid 40s. They're going to fall off. That's why you see the rain snow symbol for these locations. Up on the eastern shore, upper 30s to low 40s, but temps tumbling now that we've got this front that has pushed through the area and that colder air will sweep in. The one area that's likely to stay warmer even through the afternoon, down at the Outer Banks, are going to be in the low 50s, but we've got upper 40s. Temps will cool a little bit, but not as dramatically as the areas farther to the north. Now, overnight, we're going to see the precip tapering off this evening and then gradual clearing. That's going to allow temperatures to drop down around freezing, 20s inland. That's why we're concerned with black ice tomorrow morning. Got to stay alert on those roads. Otherwise, mostly sunny, back to the low 40s. And as we take you forward, we are going to see some nicer weather on Wednesday and then another cool push Thursday. Friday, there might be a few isolated showers passing by to the north. Models have been trending drier heading into the weekend. And then Sunday, you can see that colder air settling back in. So that's a look out over the next 7 days. We're going to be having special coverage throughout the day as the snow eventually develops. When we get some light precipitation transitioning to snow, our weather team here at 13 News Now will be working to keep everybody updated. So it's important, if you don't already have the 13 News Now mobile app, take your phone right now and point it at the screen at that QR code. Download the app. It is a fantastic resource. You will have access to our weather updates, to the radars. You'll be able to know exactly what's going on where you are. And you'll also get important updates on traffic and breaking news as well. So, again, a great thing to have, especially with the impending winter weather coming in later today and through the afternoon. We want everybody to use extra caution. If you don't have to be running around this afternoon, good idea to just stay back and let the wintry weather do its thing out the window. Stay safe, stay warm, and we're going to see you again next time right here from the Weather Desk.